Brito, I'm sure you've met her, but our resource officer, we're thrilled to have you on board. She agreed to come, just spend a few minutes and debrief a little bit from our lockdown that we had, and then also be available if there are questions that you feel like need to go to her. And I will turn it over to you. So thanks for being here and extending your day for us.
And I enjoy being here a lot, as you all know. And so this is all new for me as well, so I'm glad we got to do the drills. New for me in the sense of working in the school and being from this side of it versus outside being patrol. And I have one of these, and one of the things I'm going to do is go back to our patrol squads and go over with them what we've gone, our drills, exactly what our procedure is. So I thought it'd be good to talk to you guys and see what kind of questions you have and what kind of, if you have any input concerns. We do a lot of practice drills, just so you know. We're going to be doing some special training at the high school this summer for active shooters, specifically in the school. We've done active shooter recently with sim rounds, and we do all kinds, even interactive. It's in a building with a screen with lasers interact with us, so we do a lot of training. One of the things I think that we figured out we needed to kind of iron out was the lunchroom and what the procedure is in there. So I've met with Joe Earhart, who's gone to specialized training up in Phoenix. In fact, I'm going to look into going to that. It's for administrators, it's more for schools, but he went through that training. And if it was actually an active shooter type situation, we would do like the same as a fire drill. They'd be getting out of the lunchroom. The rest of the school would be the same as a lockdown. So that's kind of one of the things we figured out. I walked the perimeter of the outside field, and it is completely locked in. So if someone did go out to the back, like a fire drill, they'd have to be pretty confident that they could go over the fence. Otherwise, it'd have to be through the building and through the front. So just kind of one of the things to think about. I know we don't like to think about it. I'm kind of used to it because that's our training. But
one thing, Donna, can I clarify this? Because
yeah.
Our fire drill procedures during the lunchtime is you all come down, and obviously that's not the case in a lockdown. So you are locked in your room, and it's the people who are in the cafeteria. We're with the kids, and we are gone. I mean, we will be out of this building. So that is the difference. Is your students will be, we are evacuating, but you will be locked in your classroom or wherever you are. So, fire drill, you're down and we're doing check-ins with that. So that's a little bit.
Yes. Yeah, and some of the things I want to go back and talk to our patrol squads with is that the doors are locked, the front doors are locked. That's even something I didn't really completely realize. So just them knowing that en route, that they're going to have to drive through that front door or bust the glass or something like that, just things like that. The more that I can inform them of what's going on here in our procedures, the more, that we're going to be ready to respond. As far as our drill went with the lockdown that we did, it went well. I mean, my side of the building, I guess the most important thing is just to get in your class as quick as possible. I only had one room where I kind of saw some tailing off, and then I could hear them a little bit. The rest of the classrooms, honestly, I wouldn't be able to tell you if there was anybody in that classroom or not. So that's a good thing. And I know you have your procedures for cell phones. I was reading in here. So that's all stuff I'm going to take back to our patrol and let them know.
Doors not locked.
Doors not locked. I think that's what slowed down. And especially if you're one of those first doors, that we go in when we come into the wing, you've got a little less time than if you're all the way down the hallway. So the door unlocked, propped open, it's just going to take you more time. More time to get that door shut. So there's things to think about. The quicker you can get in there and get that shut and be quiet and out of sight. I tried tricking a couple of the classrooms. I bang, 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 police department. Our patrol will know that you are not going to answer the door for anybody. So if someone tells you it's the police officer, the police department, don't make a sound. So that was good to practice. We did that on just one classroom. And I got some good feedback from that. I was maybe about to, and someone told me, no way, don't answer the door. So good job. That was a good job on that. So the same would be if there was a student, unfortunately. You know, if there was someone in the hallway, they need to know that if they don't make it in that classroom, they need to do the same that we would do with the lunchroom, get out of the building.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Do we need to, if our door is already shut and locked, do we need to check, like, look and grab kids that might be in the hallway, or do we just leave it shut and locked and go to the corner?
Those kids are,
Like bathroom kids?
yeah, like they're to go right to a classroom, but they're supposed to go like to a bathroom, they're not supposed to go to a classroom. I think that's one of those.
Yeah,
You're
that's
gonna
one
go
of
with your
those.
gut. The thing that I want to tell you guys is, and you said this, Donna, when we were done, those of you who don't lock your doors, what you said to me was, there were 2 teachers that could have been dead, because they had to come out to lock their door. Done. Gone. The doors must be locked. And the way you said that to me, it was such a reminder how important that one was.
Yeah, seconds really count. Yes.
One of the concerns that, counselors generally are on lunch duty. So if you're gone, who do we report to?
They have backup.
Joanne goes in there.
Yeah, they have their office, like Amber and Joanne, they already know. They have passwords, they're in there.
Okay.
Yeah. That's a good question.
Any other questions? Yep.
You said our fields are locked. And if we push our kids out into that field, and that shooter follows, what's going to happen to our kids then? How are we going to get them out? That's something that's playing over and over in my mind because we had that shooting on the playground, and that playground was locked, but the kids were still an open target. It's
Right.
just,
I think,
Right?
and I think it's the lesser of, if being stuck in the lunchroom with all windows around, I think is the thought that that's worse than at least if they have a chance to scatter and get. But you'd have to go over a fence, which I think most people probably could,
With the
but,
veterans, for sure. Or run toward the front of the building? Because then
If
at
they
least
run-
you've got a wall between yourself and whoever's shooting if they've chased you out.
yeah, and if you go towards the front, then it has to be through the building because it's locked all the way.
Or is there a lock?
Really? There's kids get in and out of there all night.
It unlocks like 350.
grab them.
Seven locks.
So that little alleyway there, just on the end of the fence over here on this field, right there, and you can go down that way too and out.
Are you talking about
The
down
big
that goes
field down here.
along the houses?
Along those houses.
It's shut at the end.
Is it really?
It's fenced
Oh,
off,
yeah,
yeah, and
that's
I'm
all
assuming
right.
that's somebody's property.
Could people jump there?
They could, yeah,
Yeah,
anywhere along there. In fact, if you go down, if you make a left there, where the other houses kind of go this way, it goes down, so it's kind of a good barrier. If you're,
Yeah, and it would be, that would be a place to make sure.
But yeah, I don't know if that used to be open, because someone asked me that also, but it's fenced off now. Any other questions? Any other comments, or is that all?
That was a big conversation with the lunchtime one, because really,
Yes.
that's a scary thought to have. Just imagine 350 kids leaping over the fence and just running, but that's just not good.
Well, even worse, how many times has this kind of things traditionally, historically, happened before school? We've got classrooms full of kids that aren't in classrooms. Basically all 1,000 kids are in a public area of some sort.
Right.
Let's just evacuate everybody, every which direction. Or try to get
Yeah,
in the rooms.
if you're not. Well,
Because that's when these things have gone down, right? Usually before school is when somebody's showing up with.
I don't know what the percentage is, honestly. I'd have to look into
I know I
that.
felt like I've heard a lot of them.
That's right after school starts.
Recent one in Nevada, I think, was at the gym before school.
And are most of you in your classrooms already at that time?
Probably almost half of us are on duty.
So,
7th graders are up top, upstairs. 8th graders are in the cafeteria or in the gym. So, gym would probably lock down.
yeah.
Cafeteria would be out. And upstairs, I don't know. And I guess it means to go in class.
Probably the best you can do of locking down and having them in the classroom.
Science rooms don't have windows, right?
No.
Right.
And they're the closest to the front. All the science bathrooms and other classrooms.
And the bathroom's locked in the back?
Like if we shut the door, it would lock.
You can't, I thought there was a deadbolt from the back door, back of the
I
bathroom
think you have to
doors.
have a key.
Yeah, I don't think you have to have a.
Yeah, I was asking that. I don't think you can. I had someone check and they said you can't on the inside. Yeah. Yeah, and you know, just the more we think about it and think about how we're going to react, it's important. It can make a difference in chaos. Keep from panic. Anything else you want to add? No. Okay. Thank
Donna's
you.
always open, so if you have questions and you see her or you want to send her an email. And I appreciate, I'll say this in front of everybody, that you have been, I've learned from you already, and you have very quickly become so familiar with our campus, and some of the things that you tell me about your training, it just makes me know you are going to take that bullet for us.
Thank
already
you.
said that. That's why she moved the desk over to where she's at, because she wanted to make sure, that was I'm a direct line, Mary Jo, and if something happens to me, I can't help you guys. So that means a lot. So I appreciate it.
Thank you. And I'm learning all the time too with this new, but I'm enjoying it, this new assignment. So
Thank you, Donna.
thank you. And I'm going to be doing that briefing training with the rest of our squads soon, probably in the next few weeks. So.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Yep.
Okay, Shelly's going to be handing you guys just a little piece of paper that we came up with for the SPED department. I know it's been a little bit confusing having different parapros up in your hallways, especially C-Wing, D-Wing. You've had some changes. We have 2 new parapros, Charlie, who's in the D-Wing, and Linda, who is in the 8th grade C-Wing. As of now, we know that they're staying, and, right? Okay, there shouldn't be any more changes. I hate throwing this on you guys all the time. This person's here, this person's there. But as of now, that's how it should be. Peggy's still in B-Wing, Bonnie's still in B-Wing, and Peggy in 7th grade C-Wing. With having 2 new parapros, we need to be really careful about how we let them know the accommodations for our students. They don't know our students that well yet. Peggy and Bonnie have been with our students. They kind of understand what the students need, what students need to be pulled. So I came up with this little sheet. Hopefully this will make it easier for you guys when you're sending students for testing. Okay, so all you need to do with this is you communicate with your parapro 2 days in advance that you have students who need to be tested on Friday. You tell them on Wednesday, I have Bobby and Susie coming to you 3rd period. Okay? They will take it from there. They will figure out lunches and everything. When you get their materials together, okay, this is really important because we need to make sure we're in compliance. With the new parapros who haven't been here that long, they kind of just look at, okay, an accommodation is giving them notes. Not every student has notes on their accommodations page in their IEP. So with that parapro in the testing room, spreading notes on the table saying this is what you can use, that's not always in compliance. So what your job is going to be is to take this little sheet and just fill out the name, the testing date, and the period, and then you're just going to check off the accommodations that that student's receiving. Okay? We might have a student who's at the end of an IEP cycle and they had 8 accommodations listed for instruction or for testing. They only need 3. Okay, they don't need all 8. So that's why we're not just throwing that information out there to the parapros. You guys are the teachers and you know the students best. So we really want you to be intentional when planning for your students' testing. So what you will do is if the student has teacher-provided notes, you would just check that off. You would attach it to their test and give it to the parapro so they know exactly what accommodations that student receives for that test. And then at the bottom it just has a little note for you, did the student finish? And then you can go from there with your parapro how you want to have them finish next day or whatever they need. let me see if I have anything else. Just be really intentional when doing this, when you're planning for your testing. Make sure you say, okay, and we haven't had an overabundance of students being pulled for testing, so that's a good thing. So this, you probably won't need this too often, but those of you that do send students out, please make sure you're using this just so the parapros aren't kind of like fishing for things to do with them when maybe that's not an accommodation that that student receives. That too quick? Does anyone have any questions about this? There's a mistake on this one. It says test may be read 2 times. So you can copy this one, but I will send you an updated one in email that you can print out and just attach to your work. Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dana. I wish I could have logged the amount of time that you have spent on figuring out, and then we had Melissa was out, and so we had and anyway, so I appreciate your time because you are putting a lot of thinking into it. So, all right, we are going to move into some conversation that I'm gonna be really honest with you guys, and I'm going to make you uncomfortable, and I'm going to ask you for some feedback. But we're going to talk about discipline. And department chairs kind of know a little bit of what we're going to chat about. But I've been struggling with this. I've heard the feedback loud and clear. And the feedback that I've heard several times, many times, is I don't feel supported with discipline. And I'll tell you, Jamie's at jury duty, so don't read anything into Jamie not being here, because she knows exactly what we're talking about. So the first thing I want to talk about is just a reminder, and if you, maybe it's not a reminder to some of you, but we talk about, I don't know, yeah. We talk about response to intervention for academics, right? So we have, like in reading, we have Read 180 for our Tier 3 students who need, all of our students are Tier 1, so they get, thank you, Dawn. They get the typical English class. Students who struggle somewhat based on data, Expert 21. Tier 3, those students who really need intensive help for reading, Read 180. So with behavior, we have the same 3 tiers. So here's kind of you've seen this if you've looked at RTI. So Tier 1, so think behavior. So these are the students that just come in and they do exactly what you want them to do. I don't know what the percentage is. Let's hope it's the highest percentage. Those are the kids that, in our world, social contract works. They're checking each other. They're calling fouls appropriately. They respond to 4 questions, or whatever your 3 steps are, or 4 steps in your classroom. They might get parent contact. So whatever your 3 steps. So in your classroom, warning, parent contact referral, whatever that is. These students respond to that, and you rarely have to do it with these students. Okay, so those are the kids, those are your dream kids. We don't have all dream kids. So Tier 2, so I don't know, again, percentage I have no idea. But these are the students, so all of those same things. Social contracts in place, checking each other, calling fouls, 4 questions, or your whatever your routine is in your class. These might be your kiddos who have those behavior sheets from the counselor. So they need something a little bit different. They need a little bit different support. But it works. You hope it works. Maybe they were just going through something, tough at home, and they're having a bad month or whatever. So these are the kids, honestly, for the most part, those aren't the students that are getting referrals. Those are students that needed something a little bit different, maybe, because they're having a bad day. They might get a referral if it was a really bad day. Our Tier 3 kids are the ones that you probably go home at night and think, I'm not sure I can come back tomorrow. because if that kid comes back to my class. So I want you to think about, in your first period class, 2 students that you know, boom, tier 3. They do not respond to any other thing that I've done. Second period. Third period. I see nods of heads. They usually come right to the forefront of your, and maybe you've had lots of interventions or whatever around those kids. Those are the students, really, that need something so different that we need to get involved downstairs. Doesn't mean you don't write referrals for these kids if they're having bad days. These kids typically will respond because you have a relationship with them. Tier 3 kids probably won't, or they may not. So these students, the ones that are, you know, truly taking you home at night thinking, I don't know if I want to come back tomorrow. Or if that office doesn't support me better, I'm done. These are the students that need those referrals, because when we have a paper trail on those kids, we can get real creative downstairs. We have kids on half days. We have kids coming out of a class for a month or whatever. We can get real creative, but we can't do that if we don't know what's happening. Okay? So these are the kids, and department chair, help me if I'm not saying this right, because when we talked about this at department chair, you guys responded, your response was, okay, I feel like we have permission. Clarify, anybody want to add to that? Nisa, you want to share?
It was for CKH, these are the tier 3 kids are the kids who aren't buying into CKH, and it doesn't necessarily mean, although we're all newer, some of us than others, but to the CKH thing, it's not a failure of CKH to write the referral, and the permission for us, the permission to write it down when this kid isn't going to buy into the contract, that evidence, and then what we do to handle those that won't buy in. Because the tier 1s and 2s have bought in. The tier 3s, we feel like maybe we're the ones that didn't do something right because we didn't capture that heart, at least not yet. At this point, they've got to see the consequences versus us beating ourselves up.
You just need something really different. Just like a student who's in Read 180 will not function in the English classroom. They need something completely different. A student in trans math gets a whole different kind of education in math or instruction in math. They need something different. So how can I clarify this part? And I'm going to ask you to be brutally honest with me with any of this.
So, and this can change classroom to classroom to classroom, because I know that on our team, as we've communicated, they might start off okay with one teacher, and that teacher would be like, oh, I consider that kid a tier 2, and then the next period, the next teacher's saying, no, this kid's a tier 3 for me.
It's in my class with me.
Gotcha.
In my class with me, this student is a tier 3 for whatever reason. For whatever reason. Yes.
Since I've been here, I'm just trying to figure everything out, and I know that, writing referrals and everything, I don't like to do that, because I always felt like I could handle my own discipline, and writing referrals kind of like, I failed with this kid,
Right.
But now I get it, and so I do that. But the question is, you said you have kids on half day, and you have kids that are out of your room for a month. What are these kids doing for a month when they're out of your room? How are they going to learn? And then when they come back and they want us to send work down here for them, how do we send work down here for them when they don't know how to do it? And they come back after a month and it's like a straight month of zeros. It's almost like they're just going to fail, so why are they coming back?
Well, and that,
I don't know, how do you...
here's the thing is, if that were going to, because that's in place not a month, but a couple, let's say a week, that's a very intentional decision for that teacher. So the teacher is saying, I can't do this anymore, because this kid is derailing my class. So for right now, this kid's going to get his education in English from a packet down here. Is that what we want? No. But it's not working in the classroom. And I'm talking about the really serious, where teachers are saying, I'm done. I'm done. So will be part of, I hope, I can almost say every time, if a decision like that's going to be made, you should have input on it. So here's the thing, we might be trying to make a plan for a student that is having problems in 3 classes, and you say, whoa, 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 I am having no problems with that kid. Then he goes to your class. Okay, so, because I hear you, and I'm going to share some, some more thoughts on exactly what you're saying. Okay.
Well, like I had a kid who was out of my class, and it was just my class. He couldn't handle it, and we took him down here for a day. He was scheduled for a week, but after the day, he came to me and was like, Ms. Anderson, I can do it. I can be in your class. And I made the decision with Jamie, let's give him the chance. He can come back. And so even when they set that week or that day, I know Jamie's really open to what you need to do for that student. But I just had a packet ready for him. You can do it. If you want to learn, then you want to be in the class to learn. And he got it quick and came back and straightened it up, and it just took like a day. So it doesn't always take the full time.
Those longer situations are severe. They're severe. And they're to the place where it's happening in a lot of places too. So, okay, anything else about the 3 tiers? Just kind of wrapping your head around that. All right, so those are the kids that need the referrals because they need something different. They've got to get something different. And many times that something different will be initiated downstairs. Okay? It's hard if we sit in a meeting about behavior and we look and there is 0 paper trail. 0. And parent says, I haven't heard anything. And yet teachers are very frustrated because they're saying, well, we're not supposed to write referrals. So that's kind of where we're at. So I can't help with that situation because, I can't. So there's got to be that paper trail to show what's going on with this kiddo. Okay, anything, and we'll dig in a little bit more here, but as I was hearing the feedback about not feeling supported, and trust me, I spent a lot of time thinking about it. The question that I came to was, what does that mean? Because if I say that, it might mean something very different than if Brett says that, or if Dana says that. Not feeling supported, I don't know what that means. So I've asked department chair, I also asked a couple other people to answer this question. What's one thing that would need to change for me to feel supported? What would need to change for me to feel supported? And that was hard, a department chair, that was hard to dig a little bit to answer. And I'm not going to, I will have you respond to that, but I'm going to have you respond in writing on your own time. So, so I'm going to tell you that the consistent feedback that I heard once we dug is, I don't agree with the consequences. I think they're too easy. I think they're too easy. So, okay. So here's my testimonial to that, and I shared this with the department chair. When I was the assistant principal here, 0405, I found some paperwork that had the data from end of April. And in the end of April, I had processed almost 2,700 referrals. 2,700. Some of you were here then. Margaret, you remember what that was like. Kim, you were on our campus. 2,700 referrals. We're like 700 now, and that's a lot. Here's why. We were in complete reactive mode. That's what our campus was. We didn't know about PBIS. We didn't know about Capturing Kids' Hearts. We didn't know. We did what we knew. So we wrote them up, and we threw them out all the time. And I mean ISS or off-campus suspension. Here's the feedback that my job, one of the things I did with, as the assistant principals, I worked with the new teachers. And I can remember so clearly those new teachers saying, this is a stupid system. It doesn't work. Because the kids are off campus, they're suspended, and guess what? They come back to our class, they're behind, and they do the same thing. And my response to them was, and I am not making this up, I know, but it's the system we have. and it did not change behavior. What we know now changes behavior is relationship. Not always tier 3 kids. So keep going back to that. When I'm talking about with the next conversation we're having, we're talking about tier 1, tier 2. So if you're thinking that, I promise you it doesn't change behavior. It will not change that behavior. Does it give you a break? Yeah. Do you need that? Yes. Does the kid need a break sometime? Uh-huh. So all of that's true. All of that's true. But it does not change behaviors. Kids don't make a choice in Mr. Dunham's class to say, whoops, I don't want to be suspended. They don't do it. And if you've heard that, I want to hear it. But they don't, that's not what changes behavior. So that's the reality. So that's reactive world. Throw them out. You just said, Shelley, then they're behind in my class. And they can't get taught. And you get it. And then they come back and you get to make it up. You get to find all that work. I hated that when I was a teacher. I know that feeling. Think about the kid that you have sat in a conference because we're talking about behavior and you're thinking, I don't have a problem with this kid. What's the difference? Have a relationship with him. And you're going to hear that, and I know some of you are sick of hearing it. You're going to keep hearing it because that's the difference. You know that. And sometimes the barrier between a relationship with that kid, it's not even the kid, it's me, or it's not me, it's the kid. But you know, many of you have been in that situation. You're like, okay, we're going to sit in another intervention for a kid that I don't have problems with. Or vice versa. I'm in an intervention and I'm the only one. What's going on here? What's happening? So, relationship is the difference most of the time. And I'm gonna go back and tell you, I know I'm making some of you angry and I'm making some of you uncomfortable. And I don't want that, but we have to figure this out because this is causing a lot of unrest out there and you know it. And we're gonna figure it out. We're gonna dig in and then we're gonna move on. Okay? So I'm gonna say right now, so those of you that are thinking the consequences aren't hard enough, the other part of that's missing is you have no idea what the conversation is downstairs. Conversation relationships can change behaviors. So we had the glitter incident last week. I dealt with that. Some of you, your bathroom was closed, the girls. They sat down, they owned it, told the truth. And can they snow me? Yeah. Probably, but I've been around middle school kids a long time. When we talked about Mr. Mike having to clean it, and Lupe having to clean it again, and did you see all the glitter on the carpet? They truly were, like, we did not think about that. And the intent was not to come trash the bathroom. The intent was, we're going to have fun. And it involves glitter. And then the word spread. And so the final answer on that was, you have two choices. Because I can involve Officer Sabrito, because it's vandalism. Or apology letter to every of the custodians, and you don't get to participate in any more spirit days. Well, I'm telling you, they were about to go with Officer Sabrito, because they did not want to miss their spirit days. But they got to choose. So on that referral, that looks like they got off scot-free. And I promise you they didn't. So some of that just comes down to, do you trust us down here or not? And some of you don't. But I promise you, we make the best decision for those kids because we want that behavior to change. We want it to change. Students come up to you and say, nothing happened. Nothing happened. One of the tough questions I ask a teacher in one-on-one conversation is, isn't it interesting that we try really hard to not just believe, so Lindsay's a kid and she comes down and tells me, well, Mr. Knapp, whatever, fill in the blank, I'm not going to just believe her. I'm going to get the full story. So I'll say, hey, Mr. Knapp, I need some more information on this. We don't always just believe the kid. And yet when a kid comes back to your class and says, nothing happened, how quickly we believe that. It's about trust. It's about trust. And when I put that back on the teacher I was talking to, it's like, well, I didn't really think about that. Because nothing happens might mean I don't get to have a spirit day. Nothing happens might mean something really did happen and I'm really upset because my mom got called. But I'm not going to tell you that. So I'm going to ask you to trust this. You can disagree, but when you think nothing happened, at least it come down and say, what happened with those glitter girls? Does that seem like nothing happened? Let me talk to you about what happened. So that's a trust thing. And I promise you, we don't always believe a kid. And I'm going to ask you to do the same thing. Or they're sitting next to their buddies. They're not going to fess up and say, I'm in big trouble at home. They're going to say, give me another referral. Nothing happened. And some of you are getting upset about that. So I'm going to ask you to trust this. Leave the door of communication open. All right, so one of the things that, and I am going to be asking for real specific information from you in writing. I'll ask you to think about some things today. When I was hearing that feedback, the thing that I really was frustrated with myself is some of you all aren't running a real tight classroom, and you know that. So I'm going to ask you some questions. In those classrooms that aren't being run real tight, I just wonder, are those the people that are most frustrated? And I know I'm making you uncomfortable, and I'm going to try to just look right up here, but that's hard for me because when I have a teacher saying inappropriate things to kids, and I think, wow, because that teacher's so frustrated, and then I think the line isn't there, there's no steps in the classroom, there's no social contract being worked, that's hard for me. And I'm struggling with that. Because we agreed on this campus, like it or not, we're gonna have a classroom that's things are in place. So one of the things I did was I did my student chat and we talked about social contract. So think about your social contracts in your classroom. And you know if you believe in it or not. And I'll promise you this, so do your kids. When was the last time you reviewed it? But the kids know that. So my first question to the students was, what is one good thing about a social contract? Helps the teacher know what is expected. Expectation, I was taking notes. Expectations came up 1, 2, 3, 4 times. Keeps us on task. The kids know even if the teacher doesn't say it what to do. We're nicer to each other. Helps the teacher control the class. Think of a classroom where the social contract is meaningful and it works. What's going on there? What do you think about? Well, we respect what the teacher says. We spend a lot of time on it. We discuss the questions. It's about the teacher too. It's about the teacher too. The teacher respects us. 4 times kids said the teacher follows it too. And then I ask them to think of a classroom where the contract doesn't have any meaning. And I know they're there. No, we didn't use any names. I just said, I just want you to give me some ideas. Like, why is that? No time was spent on it. There's no consequences if the kids don't follow it. Teacher doesn't seem to know how. Teacher yells. Doesn't make us respect the teacher. The teacher's not following the contract. There's no control. Teacher doesn't follow through. Teacher not following the contract. It's just a piece of paper on the wall. What would you say to that teacher? We don't have a bond with you. That's powerful. It's hard to respect you if you don't respect us. It's required. Make it mean something. Focus on the social contract. Don't just yell at us. Don't yell. Be strict. No yelling. Yelling came up a lot, you guys, and I know yelling means different things to kids, but I'm good. Don't give us consequences. It's hard to learn in those classes. Teacher needs to hold up their end of the deal. Help the bad kids when they need help too. And that student talked a little bit about Sometimes the bad kids, the teacher's so upset that they don't get help. And that's human, I get that. So, this is frustrating to me because, again, I'm going to say, like it or not, this is our world. And so, this all fits together, and I can tell you I have spent hours reflecting on this. Because when people say I don't feel supported, I can tell you, and some of you have been with me with other administrators where the answer was, too bad. Don't question it. Don't ask me about referrals. Do your job. And I don't want that. I do want to hear that, but I want you, we need to keep talking about this. So here's some questions that I'm going to have you think about today. And then I'm going to send you this electronically, and everybody's going to respond to this. And I want honesty by the end of the day on Friday. Have I recently reviewed PBIS expectations? When was the last time? Again, just to yourself. Why? So if the answer is I haven't, why? Sometimes I think it might be because I didn't remind you guys. Right? What gets paid attention to, put reminders. Do I use my bingo board consistently? Why? Have I planned for an organized and quiet procedure for students to enter my classroom? Is it mandatory? Why? Do I greet every student with a positive handshake every day? Why? Do my students come into class quietly and begin working? Why? Do I plan for good things on a consistent basis? Why? So whatever that looks like in your team. I take Mondays, you take Tuesdays, plan for it. Do I do that? Do I have a clear and consistent procedure for addressing disrespect and or disruptive behavior? Is it the 4 questions? Is it my warning? I'm not even saying we have to use a specific thing. Whatever it is, warning, parent contact, referral, whatever it is for you. Why? Have I trained my students to check one another? Why? Do I consistently model the behaviors I want students to have in my classroom? What's my facial expression? What's my tone of voice? Am I listening, etc.? And why? Do I plan for my daily lunch? Why? Why is it so important for all of our classes to model and implement the CKH process? What tools or information do you need to be successful with the implementation? And what is one thing you'll be working on for the remainder of the year in the implementation? And that's something that everybody's going to commit to something that we're struggling with. So, hard question. I come to you with honesty, and I come to you with obviously a little bit of frustration, because I can't. When you think about these three tiers for kids, I have teachers that have well-run classrooms, everything's in place. I have teachers who need a little bit of support, and I have teachers who aren't doing it. I'm having a hard time with those teachers. I'm having a hard time with that. So, because I don't know I'm struggling to know what else to do to support. So, you all know what your strengths are, and if this is even working for you. And if not, that'll help if we can. Everybody was expected to follow CKH this year, right? Everybody's not. Everybody's not. All kids are expected to follow the rules. They all don't. So we support. We support. So what I'm looking for in these responses is honesty. And you can tell me point blank, I think it's a stupid process, and I hate it. Okay. I'm not going anywhere. I already told you. So this isn't going anywhere. In fact, we're going to just get deeper. So that's okay to tell me that. And I'll support you. I'll support you. But this isn't going away because it's good for kids. any thoughts that you're having, I want you to put them in writing for me. So my challenge to you all is when you go in your classroom tomorrow morning, what does your line look like? When was the last time I looked at my social contract? Am I one of those teachers that the kids say it doesn't mean anything? Why is that? I don't know. So it's 4:10. I'm open to, if anybody wants to say something that I'm missing, or I'm open to listening. I promise you, I want to make it better. I do. And I've tried really hard to spend the time to think this through, because my initial response when I started hearing that comment was, under the leadership that I worked under several years ago, that's what I wanted to say. You know what? It's none of your business what happens downstairs. And I would never do that, because that's not who we say we are. So you all have been in the middle of messiness this year in implementing CKH, and I know that. It's hard. It's different. And this is the messy part for us downstairs, because it's different. And we're making a huge shift in philosophy. And I'm trying really hard to do right by you, and to be honest by you. So I don't even know if this is the right approach. But you know, when I looked at it, I framed it like this. When I was in my classroom and my train was going off the tracks, I got us right back together. And I'd have the same message. You know what? I said this is what we're going to do, and I haven't been following through on that, so we're going to get back on board today. And that's what I felt like. I felt like we're going off the deep end, and a train is coming off the tracks, and I don't want to watch that happen. So I'm here, and part of that bringing us back on the tracks is some of you are thinking, yep, I got to get back on board. Some of you are thinking, I got it, I'm all over this. Some of you are thinking, I want to be here. And I know that. And that's okay to feel like that. We're going to make it through the year together. So so be real with yourself. Be real with your feedback to me. So did I set you up, Val, to do a launch?
Sure.
On that note, the greatest challenge of any launch. Do you need up here? Do you need the...
No.
Okay.
No. All right. So, a young, successful couple found their dream home. Shortly after purchasing it, the couple sat at their kitchen table to eat breakfast. The wife looked out the window, and to her surprise, she saw her neighbor hanging laundry on the clothesline. That laundry isn't clean. It's still dirty. She said to her husband, "Someone needs to teach her a thing or two when it comes to washing her clothes." A couple of days later, the couple sat at their kitchen table for a meal. The wife saw her neighbor hanging clothes on the clothesline, but this time something was different. "Wow, look!" The surprised wife said to her husband, "Her clothes are clean. Someone must have taught her how to wash her clothes." Without raising his head from his plate, the husband kindly responded, "Actually, honey, I got up early this morning and I washed the window." And so it is with life and our students. What we see when watching others depends on the window we're looking through. Washing our windows from time to time changes our perspective. So sometimes we just need a fresh look. And your launch.
Thank you all.